Jason come and tell us all the new and exciting news about 3Believe. So, Jason Whitney, all
Okay.
yours.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. I know it's precious, and I respect it. As I always say, I try to put together a valuable webinar each time that we come on. And the reason why is one, there's so much misinformation out there on well, virtually every topic, but especially those that have to do with health. And there's a lot of superstition, there's a lot of opinion, and there's actually different reports of science. And you can get a study that shows just about anything. I try, well, I won't say I try, I have eliminated when I quote a study or I use it in our formula to determine whether we are going to add an ingredient or make a formulation. I use one that's been peer reviewed. That means that a study was put out and then they published their study for their colleagues to basically vet it out, find out what's wrong with it, how they can make it better, or how they can shoot holes in it. And also one that's where we can do a double blind-sided placebo base. What that means is that you've got a placebo, you got the active ingredient, and you got two groups of people. One group, or at least two, you got one group that takes the sugar pill, if you will, the placebo, but they don't know it. And then you got the active ingredients that's given to the other group, and then they measure those numbers, and those are always better if you can get them. So the studies that I put together and I quote are in those two categories. And so I'm going to be doing a lot of that tonight. And so I want you to know that I don't expect you to believe me because I say so. I don't want you to go and believe something just because it's printed in the newspaper, on the news, or definitely in the internet. And so I back it all up with clinical studies. You'll see that in our reports, there's always a citation. It gives the study that I'm taking it from so that you could go out and you could actually research it on your own independently and then determine if I am full of malarkey. So let's start off with a reminder of who we are. I'm going to beat this into everyone's memory every time that we're here because we want to overcome metabolic syndrome. I say that because metabolic syndrome is a growing epidemic. Literally every single day of every week, of every month, of every year, and it's getting worse. People are dying. The CDC says that 66% of people that in America are dying from the symptoms of metabolic syndrome. And it doesn't have to be that way. It simply is not something that you are doomed to. It is a choice. And it's all because of what we eat. And so I want you to know that you have the power to choose if you're going to be one of those victims or if you're going to be a crusader. A crusader that bucks the norm, that changes from the pack of everyone else. And so that is my credo, if you will. That's my goal. And I want to give you the information so that you have it available and you can make decisions on your own. So we're here to treat metabolic syndrome through natural means, no artificial ingredients, by using medical science. Our background for the last near decade has been making formulas for doctors and physicians in clinics across the country where professional medical professionals take our formula and they treat their patients. They want to give them a choice rather than using medication to treat high blood pressure or cholesterol or diabetes or overweight issues or digestive disorders or the near hundreds of sister symptoms that are associated to metabolic syndrome. And they do it through natural means, through foods. And that's the audience that we preach to in the medical world. And then we also do it with corporate employers that want to be able to improve their workforce's health of their amongst their employees. And then we started a division for you, and we call it 3Believe. Why did we do that? Because the sad news is that more and more Americans are seeing their doctors less every year. And if that's where we're telling this great news to and spreading this medical doctor or this holistic doctrine, if you will, our audience is shrinking because Americans are seeing their physician less often. So who can tell the story better? Well, you can. Why? Because you can do it faster. And they want to talk to you. They don't want to go see their doctor because the doctor sends them a bill and pokes them with a needle and puts pills down them. So as long as you, as their friend, don't poke needles, don't put pills down them, and then you've got an audience that will likely listen to you. So let's go into some of this data. I had prepared something for you that I thought was interesting. I'm going to talk about this gentleman. His name is Bill. That's all the information I'm going to give you. But now there is one way to do the protocol. Now, when I talk about the protocol, I'm talking about the diet. Now, when I talk about diet, I'm not necessarily talking about losing weight. I'm just talking about every time you and I put a food in our mouth that crosses our lips and we chew it and swallow it, that is our diet. Now, it can be a healthy diet or it can be an unhealthy one or somewhere in between. And so when I say diet, that doesn't mean that we're restricting anything necessarily. It just means the foods that we're choosing to eat. And the reality is that when anyone follows our protocol, we're asking them to change their diet, asking them to change the habits that they've been following. And for some, it's easy. For others, it can be quite drastic and quite a challenge. But there are those that follow it to a T. They don't stray. They are stalwarts of the program. And there's those that, well, they're weekend warriors, if you will. They're in and then they're out of the protocol. They're on it and they're off it. And they vacillate. And now, sometimes that is sometimes the majority of those people that don't do it perfectly. I know I don't do everything perfectly. Don't tell my wife and don't tell my kids. I actually admitted that. But if you're like me, sometimes we don't follow the program the way it's supposed to be. Even though clinical studies and all the science is right there telling us that we got to do it, sometimes we don't. Well, this gentleman, Bill, is a prime example of that. Now, he first came in on January 3rd of this year. And I just did our numbers. Now, we did it on our fancy scale, so it's super, super accurate. Our scale cost $11,000, been clinically proven to be the most accurate scale out there for measuring these things. There I go again with clinical studies. This was measured yesterday, 8:30. All right, so this was almost 9 months of being in and out of the program. Now, what does that mean? Well, he traveled and got discouraged sometimes, had a lot of stress at home and at work. Sometimes he does, and sometimes he doesn't do it just perfectly. But the point is that I want to make, if you follow the protocol just a little bit, your physiological body absolutely will change. It will improve. You can't stop it from happening. And let me give you a prime example of this. Now, you've heard me say this, and I'm going to say it again. It doesn't matter what you weigh. It doesn't matter how much you weigh. It matters why you weigh what you weigh. Just rehearse that language over and over again, because there's a lot of wisdom in those words. It doesn't matter what you weigh. It matters why you weigh what you weigh. Now, let's go through what are the things in our body that determines our weight. Well, one is lean muscle mass. All right, that's our muscle, and it's all our connective tissue. It's our skin. It's our bones. Then we have our organs. All right, and then we have our water weight. Now, depending on the person, we're supposed to be somewhere, if we're healthy, 60 to 70% hydration. But many of the women that we measure, for some reason, women are notoriously lower than men in hydration. But I see some women in 31, 32% hydrated. That's horrible. I don't want you to be hydrated. By the way, ladies, the more dehydrated you are, the more you'll get wrinkles on your skin. You want to hydrate? You can spend all the money in the world with those balms and lotions on your surface, your skin, but if you don't have it hydrated and nutrients from within instead of from without, that lotion's not going to do much. It can help, but it's not going to do much unless it penetrates the skin, and your skin was made to keep things out. But I digress. And what's the other thing that we are measured on our weight? Well, pure muscle and fat. Those are all the things that determine how much we weigh. And so here we got Bill. He started out with 235 pounds, or actually 235.4 pounds. Now, I didn't plan it this way. It is nothing more than a miracle. He came in yesterday, and guess how much he weighed? 235.4 pounds. You couldn't have planned that better if it was by design. All right? Now, this is what I want to talk about. Why does he weigh what he weighs? Because of his lean muscle mass, his total hydration, his dry muscle mass, and his body fat. Okay? So let's take a measurement. He is 5.5% more lean muscle mass than he was 9 months ago. But he weighs exactly the same. Now, how can that be? That can be because the composition, the ratio of his body, if you took his body and you created a pie chart, each one having those different segments that I talked about, fat and muscle and water, and that pie chart that was particular to the lean muscle mass just grew bigger, though he weighed exactly the same. All right, let's go on. His hydration increased 5.7%. He was more hydrated at the cellular level. That's fantastic. His dry muscle mass. Now let me explain what that means. I don't know of any other scales in the world that will measure except for ours. Now we didn't make the scale. There's other people that have it. That has this machine. It's called an InBody 570. No other scale will measure the muscle tissue that will subtract the hydration. See, muscle, depending on how hydrated you are, will range between 70 and 80% of water. Well, it can be difficult to know how much muscle you actually have if simultaneously you're also dehydrated, right? So what this machine does is it actually takes the water out of the muscle for its readings and gives you just the dry muscle mass, kind of like beef jerky. So we dehydrate it, the meat. We actually don't dehydrate the body, but the computer does that, and it gives me that number. But he's more muscular now than he was earlier, and he weighs exactly the same. He's more muscular by a little over 4% more muscular. Now, he didn't go to the gym and pump a bunch of more muscle. Why? Boy, that's terrible English, isn't it? He didn't go to the scale and pump a lot more weights to develop more muscle mass. How's that? That's better. He has to have digested cellular received amino acids. Now, you can get amino acids from lots of places, but just because you eat it doesn't mean you're going to get it at the cellular level to the muscle tissue where it needs it. So something happened that made his body absorb more amino acids and build more muscle tissue. Wonder what that might be. Then the last one is his body fat. Now, he had 60.8 pounds of fat 9 months ago, and he has 51.3. He lost 15.6% of the body fat that he had, and yet he weighs exactly the same. Now, let me tell you why that's so important. Studies have shown that when people go on a diet, they, within 3 months after they stop the diet, they are more fat than they were prior to the taking that diet. Not ours, but other diets on the average. So that's why some doctors, and rightfully so, are actually telling their patients, don't go on a diet unless you're going to ensure that your composition, your why you weigh what you weigh, improves and you don't lose the weight, total body weight, which is mean you dehydrate yourself, you lose muscle tissue, and you lose a little bit of fat. You go off the diet because it's not sustainable. You can't do it the rest of your life. And then you put the weight back on, but guess what kind of weight you actually add? You don't add more muscle that you lost. You don't add more hydration that you lost. You add more body fat. So you're actually fatter after the diet than you were before the diet. So the doctors are saying, in good faith, I got to tell you, don't do the diet because you'll be worse off. And that's the true story of fad diets, these ones that don't work. So he lost 15.5% of the body fat that he had, and yet he weighs exactly the same. Now, I was ecstatic about the next number. You've heard me talk about visceral fat. Visceral fat is the fat that's around our organs. Now, we can bruise our egos and hurt our pride because we have too much fat on our backside, on our derriere. We have to go buy another pair of pants because we won't fit into the old ones. That can hurt our pride, but visceral fat is the fat that's around our organs, around our heart and our liver and our lungs, around our intestines, all right? And that's the fat that will kill us. There's a difference between hurting our pride and then actually causing a severe risk to our health. His visceral fat dropped 20%. That's phenomenal. So here's a guy that did not follow the program perfectly by any means. He weighed exactly the same yesterday as he did when he started 9 months ago. Now, I'm not saying that he stayed at that weight. Over the last 9 months, he's dropped down. He's lost as much as, let me see if I can find it here. He's lost as much as 15 pounds. And then unfortunately gained it back. But he was in and out of the diet program. But he's healthier now than he was when he started. Now, just imagine what his numbers he would have if he would have stayed consistent on the protocol. It would have been better numbers than these, but these aren't bad. So that's phenomenal. Good job, Bill. And that gives hope to some of you out there that may have the same challenges. You're in and you're out. Have faith, brothers and sisters, that it's improving. Speaking of brothers and sisters, can we just have a little bit of a prayer in our heart going out to our brothers in Texas? They're suffering from some hardship and a little bit too much rain, and so we pray that they'll be protected and found, and that calamity will be removed for them quickly. So the next topic I wanted to talk about is the P22. I've been concerned about this. I want to be able to try and make it more clear. So we're actually going to rewrite some of the documents that you've received that's on the website. We're going to make it more clear. We're going to do it again. And that is, we always start the protocol. Anytime anybody starts the protocol, it doesn't matter if they have weight to lose or if they have weight to gain, muscle to gain, or if they're trying to maintain their weight, if they're a Superman athlete. You always recommend and you always start with the P22. If you remember, the P stands for protein and the 22 stands for how many grams of protein is in each serving. Now, you always start with P22 because, based on a study of almost 20,000 people in the United States, people are only absorbing the macronutrients. What are macronutrients? Proteins, fats, and carbohydrates at an efficiency of 47%. So you go and eat 10 grams of protein, for example, your body's only getting 4.7 grams of that protein at the cellular level. Why? Why is that? It's because our digestive quality across the board in the United States, and it's not just America, it's other countries too, but I'm just citing the one from the United States, is so poor. We don't have the proper digestive enzymes that we should. So I have created a formula so that we can compensate for that. But it takes time for me to get your digestive quality, strength back up to where it should be, where you're digesting 97, 98% of the foods that you're eating. You'll never digest 100%. But I can get you darn close. Okay? So that's why I want you to always start on Pro 22. Now, let me build a scenario. Let's say that you've been on the protocol for 2 months. And you went from Pro 22 for 2 weeks, which is what the recommendation is, and then you switched to the Pro 6. But after you were on Pro 6 for, let's say, a month, you went off. You went on vacation. You hiked around the world. You didn't have any, and you came back. Well, if it's more than a month that you've been off the protocol, you got to start again on Pro 22. Why? The reason why is because of the reason why I changed you from Pro 22 to Pro 6. You see, the reason why I change you is because if I have you continue to get that many amino acids, protein, past about 2 weeks of being on the Pro 22, you're going to be digesting more proteins than you actually need. And if that happens, then a couple of things could happen. One, if you're trying to lose weight, it'll stop you from being in ketosis, fat burning mode, because your body now is absorbing more of the amino acids, the proteins. Your body doesn't need it, and it goes around asking everybody, do you need any more amino acids? The body says no. The body doesn't waste anything, so it says, well, all right, let's break that down, and we'll break it down into a glucose, and you could get a spike of glucose levels, which the pancreas will respond to, and insulin will cause you to kick out of ketosis. It is physiologically impossible for your body to have levels of insulin and for your body to be in ketosis. Your body cannot burn stored body fat when it has levels of insulin in it, in the bloodstream. It just can't do it. It's just like having a current of positive and negative simultaneously, or having your light on and off at the same time. It can't be done. It's either up or it's down. And so knowing that, I recommend that when you're off the diet, in the scenario that I gave you for a month, your digestive enzymes have not likely stayed alive. Why? Because you probably went back to your previous eating habits prior to the diet. Now, why don't you have digestive enzymes in your diet without the CMR? The reason why is because it's not in your food prolifically. It's not in there in high enough supply. And that's not because there's some conspiracy. It's just the reality of our commercial food system, especially in the winter months when our vegetables are being shipped to us 8 and 12 weeks away. They pick them, oftentimes nutrient deficient, right? The plant hasn't had a chance to absorb all the nutrients, or there wasn't nutrients in the soil in the first place, but that's a slightly different discussion. But when they pick them and then they gas them and then they ship them on the ship, because they don't air freight them over. It takes 8 to 10 weeks, 12 weeks, depending where it's coming from, to arrive on our shores, then get to your store. The enzymes that's in that food have died. They won't stay alive that long. They've preserved it so it looks good and it tastes good, but it's enzyme dead often. And so how do we make up for that? Well, I give you a full spectrum of enzymes in every serving of your CMR because I know that that's the case. How do I know? because this great big study was done of 20,000 people and it said that you're only absorbing 47% of the food you're eating. Why is that? Because your enzymes are insufficient in your gut. So, I want this stuff to work for you. So, if you're off the protocol for 3 to 4 weeks without anything, then start again with Pro 22. But always start with Pro 22. Which one do we start with? Always Pro 22. Then go to Pro 6 after that. Okay? How long do you stay on Pro 22? 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Okay? Now, let's split hairs a little bit more finely. Let's say that you're on the Pro 22, and then you go to Pro 6, and you're on phase 1. That means you're having 3 shakes of Pro 6 every day. And then you go down to 1 shake a day. And for whatever reason, then you go back to 3 shakes a day. Do you need to start when you go back to 3 shakes a day? Let's say you were on 1 shake a day for a month, then you went back to 3 shakes a day. Do you need to start again with Pro 22? Not likely, because you're at least getting 1 dose of the enzymes on a daily basis. Enzymes die all the time. They die because of light, artificial light. That is, they die because of pollutants. That would be alcohol and drinking. Drinking alcohol. Medications will kill it. Stress will kill it. Certain foods, caffeine will kill it. Carbonated beverages will kill it. Preservatives will kill it. Every time if you take a antibiotic, that'll kill everything, right? Both the good and the bad. So you got to take one. So if you don't have, if you've taken at least once a day, most of those cultures and the flora is staying vibrant, and so chances are you're getting enough. If you don't feel like it, how do you feel like it? Well, you're feeling a little run down. You're feeling like your gut's a little queasy, like you're not able to digest everything. You feel a little bloaty, maybe some stomach aches. The best remedy for that to start with is take an extra dose of the enzymes. And that's why we have the enzymes just in capsule form in addition. In fact, during the winter months, I don't during the summer months, because I get all of our produce locally and it's enzyme rich, and then I add my enzymes through the CMR. But during the winter months, I start taking at least 1 extra enzyme a day in capsule form, because 70% of your immune system's strength comes from how healthy your gut is. When you hear people talk about a healthy gut, what they're talking about is how strong is your digestive enzymes? Are they weak or are they strong? Well, weak gut is not a healthy flora, not a healthy gut. It's a weak one. So I want to fight off the colds, and so I keep my enzymes high by taking the extra capsule of enzymes, and I just don't get colds. And if I do feel like one coming on, I'll load up even more. I'll take 1 or 2, 3 times a day for a couple of days until I feel it knocking out. Now, also, just a word of advice, if you already have the cold and then you start taking the enzymes, it's a little too late. It's not going to hurt you. It will speed up the recovery process, but the cold's already in you. You're not going to bang it out in a day just because of that. Okay. Does everybody understand why we start with Pro 22? Yes. Thank you. Now let's move on to a question that some people have had about what is our protein? Well, it's whey. You've heard, we've produced another one that is a peptide. I'll explain in a minute what peptides are, but it's just a non-whey based protein. High quality, excellent source. It just doesn't have any whey in it. There are some people, a very small percentage, but there are some people that are sensitive to whey. Now, partly because mostly the people that can't take whey is because of the lactose that's in it. And the lactose is a dairy sugar, okay? and they're sensitive to that. And their gut feels kind of funny. Now, ours has very, very little. Our whey has very, very little lactose. How much? It has about 2 to 3% by volume of the pure whey, but once you put it into the CMR, you're dealing with 0.3% by volume, so a very small portion, but there are some people that are sensitive to it. And so for those that do, then I recommend the peptide. But our quality of our whey is is unique. It's hormone free. That means that there's no hormones in the cows that we get them away from. They're grass fed also, so it improves the quality. Let me talk about some of the features of studies that have been done on our whey. CLA, conjugated linoleic acid, is a great substance. It is 5 times higher than other wheys. Now, CLA is a powerful antioxidant, and it may be our most potent defense against breast cancer in women. So we have that in there. It also has been found that studies show that it may actually act as a deterrent in lowering your LDL cholesterols. Remember, L for low, L for lousy, HDL high, you want that one high, and healthy. That's how you can remember the difference between which one's supposed to be high and which one's supposed to be low. H for high, L for low. This whey has higher ratios of omega-3 by 600% more than grain-fed cows. Cows are fatter when they're fed with grain than they are with grass. Now, why do farmers do that then? Why do they want a fatter cow? Because they get paid by the pound when they go and have the cow slaughtered. And grain puts on more fat, and they make more money. Omega-3 has been shown to lower blood pressure and reduce the risk of heart attacks. Higher omega-3 diets. Remember, we're just talking about the whey, because as you know, we have the oil, omega oil, that is mostly high in omega-3 that you're taking with the shakes, but we're just talking about the whey itself. In the whey, it has this in it. It's been shown to do lots of good things, but some things you may not be aware of. It's been shown to reduce and lower depression, schizophrenia, ADD and ADHD, and even Alzheimer's disease. It is 400% higher in vitamin E. It's been linked to lower risks of heart disease, cancer, and other anti-aging properties. It's free from chemicals, no immunizations, so they're not given shots, no antibiotics, no injected pathogens, and no genetic modified organisms. So that's something that's unique about our whey. Now, I'll do a different segment on the peptide so we don't run out of time. But just as a short, those that are sensitive or don't want to take whey, we have now a formula. It does cost more. I have dropped right to the bottom line. It just cost me more to buy it because the processing cost to make it is more. But it's the only proven protein that's been shown to actually not only stop but reverse the effects of sarcopenia. Now, sarcopenia is a fancy word for saying muscle loss. So if you are one that is very sensitive, have noticed muscle loss, we have great results with the whey. Now, I'm not putting down the whey, but the sarcopenia affects a lot of our elderly, and the peptide is a master at stopping that. It's also very, very high isolate, meaning of the whey that we buy, 83% of it's protein. The rest of it is some fats. And like I said, 3% of it is lactose. In the peptide, it's 97% protein. It has zero fat and zero sugars whatsoever. So it is a higher percentage of protein, and for that's why it costs a little bit more. So I thought what we'd do is talk about one, let me back up. I have written a paper that's about 70 pages long that talks about each one of our ingredients that and why it makes our CMR special and unique. And so I thought what I'd do is it'd take us some time, but what if I talk about just one of the ingredients that we put in it? I'll start with the front and just go to till the last one and talk about the ingredients. So let's talk about that digestive enzyme blend. What makes it so special? Why can I make the claims of it digesting so much higher ratio than what you're currently getting? Now, there are some proteins, the ones that I've seen, they will put in, if they put in any at all, they'll put in up to 3 digestive enzymes to make the label look good. We have 16, and we have many that are patented, and they are expensive. But we have 16 blends of amino acids, but we also have lactobacillus B coagulin, and we have piperin. And I want to talk about those for a minute. We'll talk more about the enzymes and in more depth and educate you, but I want to talk about the smart pepper at a later date, but just tell you a little bit to get you excited. The piperin, that is an extract from black peppercorns. It's the same kind of pepper you put on your mashed potatoes. Okay, well, there is an ingredient there, and it's called piperin. And this company that we get it from is the only one in the world, because there's lots of piperins out there. This is the only one that's been clinically studied to show that it actually has isolated the active ingredient that does all the hype that people talk about, that increases the body's ability to absorb some nutrients up by 2,000%. 2,000% increase of some nutrients. Now, not all of them. Piperin doesn't affect every nutrient the same, but up to 2,000% is amazing. That is a bioavailability enhancer. It increases the absorption of vitamins and minerals and extracts and antioxidants and amino acids. That's the protein. By the way, that's one of the reasons the piperin and the enzymes and the lactobacillus coagulin, that's the probiotic that makes it so that you drop from the Pro 22 down to the Pro 6. You see, if I leave it to Pro 22, you're absorbing too much of the proteins. The enzymes and the piperin and the probiotic that I put in there is the reason why I drop you to the Pro 6. Plus, it puts less stress on your liver and your kidneys. As a side effect of when our body breaks down proteins, it spins off nitrogen and ammonia, which are toxins to our body. Now, don't worry, because our liver and kidneys are there to pull that out. But if it is getting too much of it, it's putting too much stress on your kidneys and your liver. And it takes more time for it to pull those toxins out. Well, doesn't it make sense for us to put less stress, get the amino acids we need, right? But we do that through increasing the absorption rather than just dump a whole bunch more protein on it. It's kind of like the shotgun effect or the sniper effect. Okay? So we're using the sniper effect. Not dump all this protein on you, but get your body to absorb the proteins that we're providing you. So, that is, I'm going to stop there with the ingredients. We talked about the enzymes and the probiotics. I am going to next week talk about this lactobacillus. There's a lot of lactobacillus coagulans out there. It's a great probiotics. This is the only one in the world that's been shown to survive the gut. Here's the problem. Most of them die in the factory before they even show up in the store on the shelf. They're dead. I mean, so they're not doing you any good before you even buy it. But then, let's say that you do have one that's actually alive in the bottle. And you take that pill, that capsule, and down it goes. Almost all of them die in the stomach acid. You see, where you need it is not in your stomach. You need it in your small intestine. You need it after the stomach. That's where all the magic happens. So if it can't survive the stomach acid, it doesn't do you any good. You paid money for something that your stomach just flushed down the toilet. This is the only one that's been shown to survive. 78% of the cultures survive your stomach. 78%, where the rest are all dying before. That is magical. And then next week I'll talk about all the studies on this particular formula that I provide to you, and all the magic that it does. Now, let me just talk to you. Does it make a difference which one we buy? Yes. Other companies don't tell you this, because it's not something that they'll brag about. They don't talk about how much it costs them for these ingredients. Now, I'm just like every other business. I want to be able to get the ingredients at the lowest price I can, but I want to get the absolute best quality, right? Well, I'm like everybody else, but I want to get you first the quality, and then the price comes secondary. That's why, or that the reason why I do that is my logic is, rather than spend all my time and money trying to go out and get a customer and then keep them for a little bit and then I lose them because I'm not providing them great benefits, I would much rather make less profit because I'm buying a better quality ingredient and have you for a long time. See, I'll make up my profits that I lost offering you a cheaper product or a less expensive product. Does that make sense? Plus, I think it's morally more sound. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. The lactobacillus coagulant, the one that's the only one in the world that survives the gut at this high ratio, 78%, it cost me $600 a kilo. That's like, here, where's the calculator? Let's do a little math here, because most of us don't know numbers by kilos. That's $600 a kilo times 2.2 pounds in a kilo. That's $1,320 per pound. Why do I do that? For one ingredient. Because it's magical. It just makes things happen in your body. You feel it, and that is the absolute best guarantee for business success, I believe. Because you'll continue to feel the effects of a quality product, which will, much better than any webinar, much better than any paper that I can produce for you and tell you all the cool things that it does. The way you feel, man, that's everything. Plus, it satisfies my desire to actually give you the best. Now, the piperine, the pepper extract, that's not cheap either. That's $375 a kilo. Holy cow, these are expensive. That's just 2 ingredients. So I want you to be excited. I don't want you to pat me on the back. I want you to be excited because of the fact that you now have a product that spends no expense in offering you the absolute best ingredients. If I find a better one, I'll get it. Those are the best ones that I've been able to find thus far. And I go every year to councils and conferences throughout the country to be educated and learn of the top products that are coming out. So that talked about some of our great, fantastic ingredients, and I'll give more on that at a later time, next week, in fact. So let's talk about some interesting numbers. You know, I've been shooting more videos, gathering more information about that, and I wanted to talk about the impact of some realities. You know, you hear us talk about the CDC. That's the disease manager for the country. Okay, we call it the CDC. And right now, it costs the country $270 billion to treat the symptoms of metabolic syndrome. That's how much it costs. Now, pharmaceutical companies are making almost $600 billion with medications to treat the symptoms of metabolic syndrome. Now, isn't that interesting? Almost $600 billion in pills that don't cure it. They just treat it. And in almost every case, it gives you other symptoms that you have to buy other medications to treat the symptom that you took to try to overcome one of the other symptoms of metabolic syndrome. Does that make sense to you? No, it seems kind of silly, but that's how much money's being spent, and it's growing. Okay, 600 billion just in medication. So all that aside from just prescription, the symptoms are costing another $270 billion. Not related. We're talking about doctor visits. We're talking about non-pharmaceutical drugs cost. But did you know that 322 billion is being spent on diabetes alone? Now, obviously, the number I gave you, the 270, was taking diabetes out of the mix. That's just the other symptoms of metabolic syndrome. So let me point out why that's such a big deal. Of those that have the symptoms of metabolic syndrome, which one's number one? Well, it's being overweight. 78% of Americans are overweight. Okay, 78%. But the cost to treat being overweight, I'm not saying it's low, but it's nowhere near the cost to treat diabetes. About 12% of our nation has diabetes. Another 3 to 4% don't know that they're diabetic, but they're not being treated. Why? Because they don't know that they have it. So we have to take that out of it. So 12% of Americans have diabetes, and yet those 12% are spending more to treat diabetes, 322 billion worth, compared to the 78% of other Americans that are treating high blood pressure, cholesterol, digestive disorders, fatty liver, things like that, and they're spending 270 billion. What does that tell you? It tells you it is really darn expensive to treat diabetes. Here's the scary thought. They are projecting that in the next 20 to 25 years in our country, that the population of Americans will grow from 12% that have diabetes to 30 or 35%. Now, just do the math. That means that number, let's say roughly, will increase by 3 times in the next 2 decades. Is going to rise to almost $1 trillion. That is more than we spend on any other element in the government. That is frightening. There will simply be people that cannot afford it, and it'll be too expensive. Now, those costs will balloon just like everything else does. It is a tragedy when you have a solution identified by the government, but also identified by the CDC and medical studies, that you don't have to have type 2 diabetes. It is an elective disease, and it is going to rob us of our finest people, our finest Americans, our finest loved ones, our finest neighbors, our finest sons and daughters. And it is a terrible, terrible injustice that people simply don't know this information. So I was going through this and I thought, man, you got to hear some of this stuff that I just repeated to you. And so in the video that we'll produce, that'll be an educational piece, something you can use and send to your friends. Also, is a great reminder to you. But that is one reason why you should not be quiet. Do not be silent about what we have, what you have available to you as a saving grace to millions and millions of people. So we have 8 minutes left. I want to talk and see first if there's any questions that I can answer. So let me turn on the speakers. Are you out there, Merv?
I'm here.
Good, good. Hey, is there any questions that you know of, or in the audience, are there any questions that I can answer?
I don't know of any, but maybe somebody else does. You covered it all. Well, it was a fantastic call. So, anybody have any questions? Anybody?
Okay.
Go ahead. Got a question? Go ahead.
Uh-oh, he gone, mm-mm.
All right.
Anybody have a question?
I can't get this camera to go either, guys.
All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the next 6 minutes to talk about what I want to talk about then. So last week we talked a little bit about the compensation plan. I'm really proud about this compensation plan. You guys, we're going to spend some time really vetting out the benefits that these different features have. I'm going to produce a video that talks about it, but let's just talk about the 3 different ways to be associated with 3Believe. You've got the sales representative. That's where you buy the product at wholesale. You're the only one that can buy the product at wholesale. Is if you're a sales representative. We abbreviate that as SR, sales representative. Now, we've been working on, I don't know if, let me see while I'm talking, if the site has been updated yet, but we've been working on an easier way, because some of you have been confused, and the people that you've sent confused about what the price is, the difference between retail and wholesale pricing. So what we did is we created the page so that when you hover over it, okay, I can see that it's not done yet. It'll be done tonight or first thing in the morning. When you hover over any one of the product images, there'll be 2 boxes that show up in the bottom of that little box. One will be red and it'll say wholesale price, and one will be teal, our company colors, that says the retail price. Now, why did we do it that way? Because we want people to realize that there's 2 different pricing. Now, everybody loves to get prices cheaper, so it's a natural motivator for them to be able to see that they could get that price lower than the retail price. Now, you as a sales representative, when you click on the red, it goes right to your pricing, and then as you check out, the prices are automatic. If you're not a wholesale authorized person, you'll click on the teal, which just says a retail, and you'll get a different pricing. Now, let's say that you're a retail customer, you have not signed up as a sales representative, and you click on the wholesale. What will happen? A window will pop open, and it will explain to you what you need to do in order to be a wholesale representative. So it explains to them the benefits, the 3 different ways: the sales representative, the affiliate member, and a retail customer. Explains to them what they need to do in order to be or to qualify for the wholesale pricing. So I'm pleased about that. That'll be on there. Why do we have affiliates? Because affiliates are, if you're not aware, are a huge part of the internet. You know, there are women and men all over this country that don't have a store. They don't even buy any products that stock in their home or in a business, and yet they run tens of thousands and even millions of dollars of product through their business every month. People just buying online, and the manufacturer of the product is the one that drop ships for them. They never even see the product. And they're called affiliates. And so what they do is they'll have a blog or a site and they talk about a topic, whatever it may be, and they have lots of followers. And some of these people have millions of followers. I'm amazed. Talking about, I don't know, sprinkles and unicorns. And they'll have, 50,000 or 500,000 followers. And then they'll sell products that talk about sprinkles and unicorns. Well, they're on every topic. Well, there's also people that do it in the health arena. And they can be an affiliate, which means that they don't get it at wholesale, okay? But they earn 3B credits, which means they can get their product for free. because you see, you have people that want to get a discount, but they also want to get their product for free. They get it for free by referring their clients to the ones that are on their webinar or on their blog or amongst their database. They come to the site, use their number, just the same as if they're a sales rep, and then we'll give them credits as if instead of it being commission, we'll give them credits. They exchange those credits to buy the product and they can get their product for free. Now, why do we do it that way? Well, it's one easy way to get someone exposed to the business side without having to sign up, without them having to fully get immersed. And until what happens is they'll build this group of people, hundreds or thousands of people, and you as their sponsor then can tease them. Why would you tease them? Because you get to explain to them, I see that you're using up that product in credits and you're getting the product for free, good for you, but you know that you're letting $1,500 or $2,000 go by every single month. All you have to do is sign up as a sales representative. What do they have to do? They buy a bio kit. That's it. All of their rest of their if we can call it downline, stays intact. They don't have to start all over again. You being their sponsor still get all the benefits in both ways, but now those people are motivated to even build their business greater. So that's why there's an affiliate. And then there's a retail customer. Well, they don't get paid anything. They just benefit in the quality and the benefit of the product. And then there's some features, and I'm going to go quickly over one of them because we don't have the time tonight. But I'm going to talk about why we have the designation of placement feature. What this is a great marketing tool. What that means that you can take a person that you enroll in 3B, and it can be a retail customer, it can be an affiliate member, or it can be a sales representative, and you can place him anywhere or her anywhere in your organization that you want. Okay, you just have to place that person anywhere that's in your group. You don't automatically have to put them on your front line. You can put them on your on lower levels. Why is that a benefit? Because it now helps your people down below. You do not get penalized in any way. You get paid exactly the same as if you left them on your first level. But it allows the people that let's say that you placed them on, someone on your fourth level. That means that someone on your third and your second and your first level all benefit from your placement of that person. They're still your sponsored person. You do not lose out on any commission at all, but the money trickles up to the people above. Now you might want to say, let's say Mary, it works really well with Jim, and you think their personalities work great. Well, then you can pair them up. You can have them work together in your organization. It's a great feature for building your organization. So that's something that we're putting into place. You'll see it. I'm having them program it right now as we speak. In a matter of a few days, it'll be up and running. But that's why the placement feature was put into the program, to help you build your business more succinctly. So I'll cover some more of the features on next week when we go over our next webinar. I thank you for your time. I appreciate all that you do. I will tell you that it's the end of the month, and thanks to you, 3Believe has set another record, another volume record. Why is I'm so excited about that? Because that means that come the 15th of this next month, I pay more money to you. Congratulations. That's great. I'm excited about that. That's wonderful. Wonderful to write out larger checks. We've done that every month so far, and I'm really excited about that. So Merv, I'm going to give it a shout one more time. Is there anything that you want to say?
Phenomenal call. Phenomenal. Very good.
All right. Well,
that was good. So
thank you. Remember our Texas friends in your prayers, and to all of you, a good night.
Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody. appreciate you being on the call, and God bless you.
Good night.
The call will be recorded. Good night. Call will be recorded. Be number 36. And we'll, I'm sure that Mail will be posting the call tomorrow night, so, or tomorrow, so you can refer people to listen to the call. There were another call, so.
Absolutely.
Well, God bless you, and have a good night.
Yep. God bless you all.
Good, yeah, good night,
Thank
everybody.
you. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.